Hello, Dare2Be Artsy fans. It is Michelle Houghton here from scrapweaver.com or Copic in the Craft Room. Either way, you know me. I am going to be featuring some of the brand new Seize the Day stamp sets from Dare2Be Artsy. You can find those on their site, dare2beartsy.com, and they are available March 1st, 2019. I am going to be using some Yupo paper, that's Y-U-P-O, to do some ink work. So I'm going to use a group of various inks from Copic. These are alcohol-based inks, and I'm just dripping them on this paper. And because the Yupo is non-porous, it doesn't absorb in right away, and you can see that alcohol spreading. This is at a faster pace, so in real time it's a little bit slower, but you get the feel. The inks are going to run into each other. You can go back and forth between the lighter and darker colors. Usually I use maybe 4 colors. A lot of times I'll limit myself to 3 depending on what I am doing. I was trying to get some kind of ocean looking colors going. You can see the inks are still really wet. I could use a straw and blow, or I could use even my airbrush gun to kind of spread those around a little more effectively. I like to do 2 or 3 colors and then come back in with either really light or really dark. Sometimes to push those colors around a little bit, kind of in the middle of the ink, just to spread them out a little bit. You can even come back in with drops of Copic, the Copic Colorless Blender, to spread them around a little more. For this particular technique I'm going to do, you definitely want to make sure these are completely dry. So you could use a heat gun. It's kind of up to you, or let them sit for a while. Then I've got my MISTI, or a stamp platform, set up with my stamps on the stamps from Dare2Be Artsy, and then I've used an alcohol lift ink. And so what I'm doing is I'm stamping the image with that lift ink, and then you take a dry cloth and you carefully wipe off what is kind of where that lift ink has pressed. So this is my first time attempting this, and so there was a lot of learning, a little bit of a learning curve for me in doing this. The one thing I learned right away is that those ink blots need to be completely dry. And so my first round didn't go super well, just because the ink was still actually a little tacky, is what I call it. It wasn't wet, but it was still a little tacky and sticky in some areas, and it really needs to be completely dry. So it's worth heat setting. The other thing I learned is I can do multiple rounds. So I can stamp, do a little gentle rubbing, and then I can stamp again. And what I found, especially if the ink was even sort of tacky or damp, is that as I was rubbing or pulling up where that alcohol lift was, it started to smear because the ink was still a little soft. And so as I was kind of doing these small circles with my dry washcloth, obviously I'm ruining that washcloth, so don't only do that with a cloth that you're ready to kind of ruin. But as I did that and did multiple, I would put more ink on my stamp, pull a little more off, put more ink on, pull a little bit off. And then one of the cool things I discovered is that then I can stamp what's left, then what I've lifted off of the page onto that stamp. So this third time, I'd really let the ink dry. You can see I kind of let it run across the page, hopefully looking a little ocean-like. And then I stamped it 2 or 3 times with the alcohol, kind of the lift stamp. And you can start to see, as I rub, you can see where the waves, those doodled waves, are showing up, and the message is showing up really, really well. I do it like about 3 times, re-ink the stamp, re-stamp, and then re-rub. Obviously with a stamp platform like this, because it stays all lined up, you get this really nice clear, it stays right in the right place. And this one worked really, really well. I did it about 3 or 4 times. I think that was my 4th time with this one. So someone might have better luck, but that's a good close-up of it. And then here's where I used, what I found is I could stamp, But if I took a little bit of colorless blender and misted on that stamp with that leftover ink, I could get a better image. So misting it with my Copic colorless blender actually helped. And this is what some of those final cards look like. I have 3 here, just really nice images that you can really see and got pulled up really well. Thanks so much for joining me here this week. From all of us here, we dare you to be artsy. Find some time to create this week. And join me over also at Copic in the Craft Room.